there, crew. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince or Reports. Well, mateys, this will be the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie that I'll be sharing with you on my blog series. If you may recall, I blogged the fifth movie, Dead Men Tell No Tales, back in 2017, The Curse of the Black Pearl last year in 2022, and of course, Dead Man's Chest and At World's End during my previous two episodes. But what are my thoughts on movie number 4? Well, let's find out. Released on May 20th, 2011, the movie is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Now let's set sail, mateys. The checkered past of Captain Jack Sparrow catches up to him when he encounters Angelica, a beautiful pirate whom Jack once loved, who forces him to accompany her on the Queen Anne's Revenge, the ship of the notorious pirate Blackbeard. Accompanied by a zombie crew, the trio sets sail to find the legendary Fountain of Youth. However, Jack's rival, Barbossa, also seeks the fountain, as does a ship from Spain. So, what do I think? Well, in my personal opinion, this movie was okay, but it could have been a hay of a lot better. And to further explain what I mean, let's move on to Mustang notes. After the third movie's successful opening weekend, Dick Cook, the then chairman of the Walt Disney Studios, said that he was interested in a fourth installment. Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio had started working on a script in 2007, but they were sadly interrupted by the 2007-2008 Writers Guild of America strike, and they thankfully only resumed in mid-2008. In June 2009, Jerry Bruckheimer indicated that Disney would prefer the fourth installment of Pirates to be released before the Lone Ranger film, which was being worked on for release in the summer of 2010. He hoped original Pirates director Gore Verbinski would return for the fourth film, as his BioShock film adaptation had been put on hold. Sadly, Verbinski was unavailable due to his commitment with Rango during the same year. So instead, on July 21st, 2009, the directing job was given to Rob Marshall, who accepted because of the whole new storyline and set of characters. It felt really new, and that was very important to him. For those who don't remember, Rob Marshall is the guy who choreographed 1997's Cinderella, and he directed such beloved musical films like 1999's Annie, 2002's Chicago, 2014's Into the Woods, 2018's Mary Poppins Returns, and the recent Little Mermaid remake, which I hope to blog if my computer can find a collaborator to help me.
Patience, sir.
On September 11th, 2009, the film was revealed to be inspired by Tim Powers' 1987 novel On Stranger Tides, which Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio discovered during the production of Dead Man's Chest and At World's End, and they considered a good foundation on which to base a new chapter in the Pirate series. Disney bought the rights to the novel in April 2007. Principal photography lasted for 106 days between June 14th and November 18th of 2010, with locations being set in Hawaii, the United Kingdom, Puerto Rico, and California. Filming employed 3D cameras similar to those used during the production of James Cameron's Avatar, and 10 companies were involved with the film's visual effects. Now, firstly, when I saw this movie in theaters back in 2011, I saw it with several friends from Musical Theater Village in IMAX, and believe it or not, it was the very first midnight movie that I've ever seen. However, while it doesn't technically have the same thrilling or epic feel as the previous 3 movies or the 5th movie afterwards, there were a few parts about the film that I still kinda liked. For example, I find it interesting that the film takes a very thrilling pirate story like on Stranger Tides and make it a Pirates of the Caribbean film, which is kind of similar to what Aladdin did for the third movie due to it being inspired by Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Plus, I like that the film centers on a quest to find the Fountain of Youth, which was originally gonna be used in Dead Man's Chest. Also, I like that director Rob Marshall visited the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland for inspiration, eventually paying homage with a skeleton holding a magnifying glass in Ponce de Leon's ship. Also, another ride reference scene that was gonna be featured in the movie was Old Bill, the pirate who tries to share his rum with a cat. But sadly, that scene was cut, I guess for time restraints. Also to mention, one of my favorite scenes in the film took place at Hampton Court Palace in London, which is one of several locations that me and my family visited during the previous summer in 2010. And I think the mermaid scene at Whitecap Bay started out very alluring, but then it becomes horrifying and intense and pretty comedic when one mermaid slaps Jack like most women do. Plus, I think some of the fight scenes are choreographed pretty well. As for the story, well, it's not too bad, but it kind of drags at times. And now, let's move on to the cast. Our main protagonist, Captain Jack Sparrow, is once again played by Johnny Depp, best known from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Finding Neverland, the Fantastic Beasts films, several Tim Burton movies, Sherlock Gnomes, The Lone Ranger, Rango, and Into the Woods. As I previously stated, Jack Sparrow is a really awesome pirate, and he makes an irrelevant trickster. Plus, Johnny Depp still does great at giving him a humorous and eccentric personality, as well as a slightly drunken swagger. During this movie, after several years of losing the Black Pearl again, Jack goes on a quest for the Fountain of Youth while being forced to work as a deckhand aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge. Next is his rival, Captain Hector Barbossa, played by Geoffrey Rush, whom was in 1998's Les Miserables, Pixar's Finding Nemo, Animal Logic's Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, and Illumination's Minions. After the pirate showdown with the East India Trading Company, Barbossa stole the Black Pearl from Jack once again. However, sometime later, Barbossa had lost the pearl and his right leg in an attack by the fearsome pirate Blackbeard, and he branded a wooden leg. At some point later, Hector served as a privateer in King George II's court, claiming to owe his allegiance to king and court. Under the command of Hector Barbossa, the HMS Providence sailed forth without fear on Stranger Tides during the quest for the Fountain of Youth. And after joining forces with Jack Sparrow, Hector revealed that it was revenge rather than valor that pushed Barbossa towards the fountain, as he held a grudge against Blackbeard. In the aftermath of the battle, Barbossa claimed the Queen Anne's Revenge and returned to piracy. Next up is Jack's first mate, Joshua Gibbs, played by Kevin McNally, who played Joseph Bouquet in the 2004 Phantom of the Opera movie. Now, Gibbs is still one of my favorite characters in this pirate franchise due to him being a generally knowledgeable person, and I like that he shows true loyalty to Jack. During this movie, Gibbs is arrested in London and is wrongly accused as Jack Sparrow. Thankfully, the real Jack Sparrow comes to his aid and gives him a life sentence instead of an expected death penalty. After being arrested by the Royal Guard, Gibbs managed to steal Jack's map and memorized it, possibly from photographic memory, prior to burning it, so that Barbossa would have no choice but to take him along to search for the Fountain of Youth. Eventually reunited with Jack, Gibbs used his captain's compass during the climactic battle to find the Queen Anne's revenge and get the bottled Black Pearl, stealing the rest of Blackbeard's trophies of war and treasure in the process. Now let's talk about the new characters, starting with the secondary antagonist and anti-heroine for the film, Angelica, played by Penelope Cruz, whom I mainly remember from G-Force. Angelica is an old flame of Jack Sparrow, as well as the daughter of the ruthless Blackbeard. To me, she is sharp-witted and beautiful, and she has a talent to dazzle and deceive. In other words, she's a master of disguises. Fun fact, Angelica learned the art of con from Jack Sparrow himself, with her possibly being the only woman whom Jack ever truly loved. During the quest for the fabled Fountain of Youth, Angelica served as first mate aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge with the goal to save Blackbeard's soul. Next we come to the most feared pirate ever, Blackbeard, played by Ian McShane, whom was in Agent Cody Banks, Shrek the Third, Kung Fu Panda, and Henry Selick's Coraline. Blackbeard is the blackest soul and the darkest heart of any pirate who had ever lived, striking fear into the bravest of sailors across the seven seas. To me, this evil pirate is ruthless and malicious, and he's known to be cruel to his prisoners, often torturing them, mostly for his own selfish amusement. His flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, is manned with zombies, festooned with the bones of his victims, and spits Greek fire from its bow in order to incinerate enemy ships or the occasional crew member fallen out of favor. Also, Blackbeard dabbles in the black arts and he wields the Sword of Triton. He turns full-size ships into individual ships and bottles, keeping each as a prize, including the Black Pearl. However, as the years passed, Blackbeard's age begins to catch up with him, and the Dark Captain lives under the shadow of a prophesied death. His only hope is to seek the waters of the legendary Fountain of Youth. Whatever it takes, no matter who is crushed beneath the weight of his heartless ambition, Blackbeard will get there by any possible means. Plus, Blackbeard becomes even more serious about his goal when he must deal with Jack Sparrow and Barbossa. Also to note, Blackbeard was added to the Disneyland ride from 2011 until 2018. Next is Philip Swift, played by Sam Claflin, who after this movie acted in the Hunger Games sequels, the Huntsman movies, and Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarfs. Philip is a stalwart missionary whom was held prisoner aboard Blackbeard's ship. Before being captured, he was on a mission of salvation, and in my eyes, Philip is a strongly religious man and a believer in God, as well as a idealistic, courageous, fearless, and a compassionate man. Plus, he's very caring towards others, most notably to the enigmatic mermaid whom he named Serena. Speaking of which, finally, we come to Serena, played by Astrid Bergès-Frisbey. Serena is a mysterious mermaid who lived in Whitecap Bay. After her fellow mermaids led an attack on Blackbeard's crew, Serena and Philip began to recognize a quality in each other, drawing them together and allowing them to become allies. Each discover more of their true beings, but risk their lives when they listen to the sounds of their hearts. Also, instead of being vicious and manipulative like the rest of her kind, Serena is reserved, kind, and compassionate. Plus, Serena does share a few similarities to Madison from Splash and Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Other actors in the film include Richard Griffiths as King George II, Stephen Graham as Scrum, Derek Mears as Blackbeard's Master-at-Arms, and Rolling Stone Keith Richards as Jack's father, Captain Edward Teague. And now on to my final words. Overall, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides is not a great sequel, but still okay. I still find it cool that it takes inspiration from Tim Power's 1987 book, and I like that it centers on a quest for the Fountain of Youth. Also, Jack Sparrow is still an amazing pirate character. Barbossa's role in this movie was pretty interesting. Angelica is a talented schemer. Blackbeard is a ruthless pirate captain. And Philip and Serena are pretty memorable characters, and I think they make a sweet couple together. Plus, the musical score by Hans Zimmer is classical, and the fight scenes are choreographed pretty good. However, the things that make this movie the weakest in the pirate franchise is that some of my favorite characters are absent, the story kind of drags a bit, and it's not as thrilling or as epic as the other pirate movies. Plus, the inclusion of the Spanish soldiers were pretty pointless to me. But still, if you're a fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, then by all means, give it a watch. But keep in mind, this is not a movie that I recommend for everybody though. As for my rating, I'll give it a 61% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next blog, where I make another visit to Maraway Cove. Mustang Power.